Hello guys, David Vos here again. Oh boy, is it raining in Oklahoma. It's a pouring, but it's beautiful and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, take a look at this, guys. Back onto the global map showing all the earthquakes. We'll go back to the Palma Island. Now, take a look at the shape of that island. I'm going to show you something in a minute. Take note of the shape. Okay, but remember we went in there yesterday, a few days ago, and we saw this pattern. Well, it's still going on in a specific pattern. It looks like dominoes, right? It's a grid. But the change here is that there is now earthquakes happening all over the island, all the way up to Santa Cruz and out into the sea. So it's all expanding. It looks like it's expanding. Now, I said I was going to show you something about the shape. So take a look at that shape. And then look at this.
This is it, boy. With this bird gone, the plant will be mine for the taking.
Now fly to the Canary Islands.
So there is, in cartoon form, the same island, exactly the same shape, except at the bottom left, there's a chunk missing. Yeah, the western flank of La Palma is missing. I'm wondering, I can't help but believe that they did that on purpose. Now, the earthquakes that we've had there have been pretty big, and they're getting bigger each time. We got 4.6 over, like, there's one, I think it was a 5.1 earthquake recently. So they're getting bigger as we go. So I'm back on that global map that shows you all these earthquakes. And somebody was saying, don't lie to the people. That pattern is not a grid pattern. That's just normal. That always happens. Friends, this is not true. That is absolutely unusual. It's beyond unusual. It's mathematically impossible for earthquakes to keep going off. If you notice, there's some circles within the circles. You see some of those on the left, how there's a little circle and a big circle around the little circle. There are earthquakes, multiple earthquakes happening in the exact same spot. They don't usually do that. You might have an earthquake in the same spot. It could happen. But it doesn't happen constantly. Every time, multiple times in a straight line, in a grid pattern like that. Now, remember, we saw this 3 days ago, or a couple of days ago, I guess. Well, it's back. Okay, this is today, and that's what it looks like, but it's getting wider. And you see earthquakes all over the place. And, all right, that one is 37 kilometers. That's over 25 miles below the earth. That is in the upper mantle of the earth. 34 kilometers. That's, again, over 20 miles down. 36 kilometers. This one's 34. That one's 35. 30 kilometers. 40 kilometers. 40 kilometers there. 40 there. They're all 40 there in that area. 30 kilometers. 30 kilometers. 20. 32. 29. 11. 4 kilometers. So as you're going down south, they seem to be they're not as deep. Well, no, there's 32 kilometers. 27 kilometers. So over about 25 miles deep is what is going on here. Now, why is that significant? So here you see what they're saying about the upper mantle of the earth. It says it's a very thick layer of rock inside the planet. Inside the planet. It begins just beneath the crust at about 6.2 miles. That's where it begins. It's under the oceans and about 35 kilometers and 22 miles under the continents. 22 miles. And ends at the top of the lower mantle at 420 miles. 420 miles. Now, as far as I know, I don't hear anybody ever talking about earthquakes that are that deep. I know of earthquakes that were very deep. They said, oh, this is a deep one. Some of them are actually, well, a lot of times they happen in Hawaii. They have deep earthquakes there all the time. And they say that a deep earthquake leads to the shallow ones. The shallow ones we feel more, but the deep ones you feel over a larger area. And they the deep ones, I guess, like bust open the way down. I mean, now, there is lava pockets, I guess, or corridors, pressurized chambers and so forth under the crust, not the mantle, but there are pockets of water there. There's pockets of gas and oil. There's, gas is pressurized as well, and even hot water makes pressure. So at Yellowstone, you have these geysers, which is hot water coming out. Well, that means that there's air opened up all the way down under there where there's probably lava. It's really hot in the Earth's core. And it's causing water dripping down there. It's causing steam, and it's coming out. Well, the same thing occurs when the fire reaches gaseous areas and it starts exploding. And then you get fire coming up out like a geyser. Okay, so we get earthquakes all the time. Remember, in the Bible it says, Jesus said, that one of the signs that we'd be in the Great Tribulation is that you would have earthquakes in one place after another. And it doesn't even use the word earthquake. It uses the word seismo. That was the Greek word. So seismic activity is a word we use today. But what they meant in Jesus' day, I don't know if they meant specifically earthquakes or just great rumblings of the earth, shakings of the earth. But I think from what we're seeing right now is that there's definitely an increase of earthquake activity, and it probably has a lot to do with the sun, the position we are near the sun and the sunspots. And we'll talk about that at another point. But I wanted you to see just how far down this area called the upper mantle of the earth is. So here it shows where the mantle of the earth is and the lower mantle, all that. So it's 6 miles under the ocean is where the upper mantle starts, and it ends at 420 miles down. And then number 4 is beneath that. You see the little circle with a 4. That area where 4 is, that is the lower mantle. And so the upper mantle starts about 22 miles beneath that mountain, and about 6 miles beneath the ocean there on number 2. So, once you go beyond 420 miles down, you're in the lower mantle where there is lava, and it is hot. And this is not something that happens very often. It is really, really weird. Some people are saying that those are very deep, that these are huge, deep earthquakes. Well, I want to show you, because we got to understand this. We don't want to have any information that's just kind of a little bit wrong and mislead us. But take a look at, for instance, where you see the blue and the green circles, those are ones that are deeper. The red ones aren't deep. Now, see, that's 38 kilometers. Usually they're around 20 kilometers. It's kind of normal then. The blue one is 241 kilometers. That's halfway through the upper mantle of the earth. And notice down here in the Fiji Island. So here's Hawaii there. And Hawaii sometimes have some really deep earthquakes, but I suppose about as far as it's going there today is about 45 kilometers. Oh, and just to show you that it's not normal to have that grid pattern, look at this pattern here. It's random. Somebody was saying, no, they have to place them on a grid for some reason because they can't put them close together and they have to space them out. I don't know why I don't even know what they were saying because that didn't even make sense. But this is the proof that they usually happen in a random pattern, not like that. So, again, that seems very natural, very normal. But down here, to show you just how deep these things will go sometimes, look at, so now they got purple ones. That's 561 kilometers. That's down by the New Zealand. 500 kilometers, 60, 429, 387, 160. There it is. Okay, that was it. Off the coast of the Fiji Islands, it's 561 kilometers. Now, remember what we were saying about how that mantle goes down just about that far. Well, actually, it starts at 421 kilometers, the lower mantle. And this is 561 kilometers. It's much deeper. And I guess this is not unusual because I looked up the deepest one they've ever had, and it was 750 kilometers. So that puts these earthquakes way down in the lower mantle of the earth where there is hot lava all the time down there. It's very unstable. So these holes can open up and go all the way down into the center of the earth, like into the lower mantle. Many, 500 miles down. And so the odd thing about this is that where they usually have large, deep earthquakes, that will spark a lot of smaller earthquakes, and that will spark volcanic activity. So there are, from time to time, you have volcanoes in Fiji and Hawaii and places like this, and on La Palma. So it's strange that nothing like that has occurred so far. So where then is all of this magma coming from? All of this lava? I mean, it looks kind of like what's going on in other places like Hawaii. It's just constantly spewing. I read that because of the depth of these earthquakes, they're expecting this to last maybe 5 months or more. This is not going to be over in just a few days. Mount St. Helens might have rumbled a little bit over and off and on, but it didn't just sit there and spew out ash and lava for 5 straight months. If it does, if there's a lot of ash in that, you might see in many places around the world where you won't be able to breathe if you go outside. I mean, you think about putting all that ash up in the air for 5 or 6 months straight. And if it keeps going like this, and we can see that they're doing something to cause this, then perhaps they've got ways they can drill and they can do weird things. So perhaps they have literally drilled a hole all the way down so that they don't need a big natural earthquake that deep to get things rolling. Perhaps they're using certain natural occurrences that are happening right now, because there is a definite uptick of solar activity and as well as earthquake activity. So it seems like they've been studying this La Palma island. They've noticed that it's basically half of the island is floating on the water. And all you'd need to do is make some blasts at the right place, and it just crack off and fall into the ocean, and that would cause the tsunami. A lot of people are saying, I probably wouldn't do that. Well, of course, we can't really believe anything that scientists say because they're lying to us right now. They're all telling us there's global warming too. And of course, they should know, and they do know, that any global warming or anything like that is probably caused from the sun spots, the sun activity, and not anything that human beings might be doing on the earth. You know, when you think about all the ash that a volcano puts into the air, it kind of seems a little ridiculous to be worried about a little factory blowing out a little bit of, carbon dioxide or something, or our cars. It's not even comparable to some of these earthquakes that we've had, many of them, these volcanoes that we've had that go off at all different times. Just every year there's a volcano going off somewhere, and ash going into the air. So it's unreasonable to think that this is all done and caused by humans. So they are lying to us. But I will now show you, and I probably should have put this at the beginning of the video, but I think this entire video is important to watch. But now I'm about to unveil absolute proof, friends, that I'm going to show you video proof that they have caused this. And if they're trying to cause something, if they're blowing off some detonations, it would have to be something like nuclear detonations. They're not using dynamite to do this. Evidently, somehow, to open up chasms where there are not supposed to be any chasms. And isn't that what the Bible says? The bottomless pit was opened, and smoke from the bottomless pit came out. And remember also that Jesus said you'd have earthquakes in one place after the other. So it's not going to just be La Palma. We've got them going, an increase of activity on the west coast of the United States as well, around Washington, Vancouver area. There's a around Seattle, Mount Hood. Some big stuff's going on up there. A lot of seismic activity. But none of that seems to be man-made there. It seems like they're using the natural things that's going on, and they're kind of helping it along. And I will show you the proof of that. Watch this. All right, so there's the mountain. You see that light at the bottom? Right in the middle at the bottom. It's flashing. Now, I doubt whether there's anybody walking around down there with a flashlight. That is basically right at the lava where it's steaming, and I don't think there's anybody over there just flashing lights. What do you think that light actually is? If you see the one on the right? There's more than one. But it just keeps flickering. You know, you might think, well, could be anything. That doesn't prove anything, Dave. What are you saying it is, Dave? Well, I'm saying it's a detonation, some kind of, explosion, I don't know what kind of an explosion. But I assume that if they're exploding things, they're detonating something. They're not using dynamite. I think it could be nuclear. It could be, well, I don't know. I'm not an expert on explosions. But I see lights that are pretty big lights because we're at a distance. But what you're going to see here in a second is going to show you exactly what that flashing light is. So, hang on. There it is again. Get ready for it. This is going to blow your mind. I'm telling you, we are in deep, deep trouble. Now I see one way over in the right-hand corner. If you go back just a few seconds, you'll see another one over there. There's quite a few little lights flashing. But that one consistently is flashing there in the middle. Now, watch this. 2 hours later. Well, that's obviously they opened up and the smoke is really starting to come out of there. And that is the very spot where we saw the light. There's no question about that. They've opened up the bottomless pit, guys. Because that's not natural. Nature doesn't start flashing lights and then all of a sudden steam comes out of the mountain. At least not as far as I know. If anybody has any other explanation, I'd be happy to hear it. Oh, and another thing, it's coming up here in just a second. Maybe it's just birds, little birds going by, but there's a whole fleet of something that goes by real quick here. Oh, you see that? There it goes. But with the grid pattern that we see, and now these lights that look like 9/11, you can see the little lights where they detonated it so it fell down. It was a demolition. And we saw the little explosions. I don't know if any of you saw that. I'm sure these are different kinds of explosions here, but whatever they're doing, it's letting off an awful lot of smoke out of that spot now. And now there's 5 hours later. Take a look. Now it's literally spewing hot fire and lava. Oh well, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.